Thing. Ready to birth. I don't know how to copy invitation link, I think. Sure. Is it recording right now? Mm-hmm.
Bum, ba-da-bum.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it's been the whole time.
Oh my god, embarrassing.
I mean, we can cut it out.
No, it's always raw. It has to be raw.
Welcome, people.
Welcome to the second episode of A Line in the Sand. I am Tatiana.
I am Liam. Welcome.
These are our humble interiors.
We are the creators of lines.
In the sand.
And the sea washes it away.
And then we have to create another line. It changes by each wave.
And each episode. Exactly.
We just change opinions on things all the time. So how you've been? It's the second month of lockdown. It's gonna go on till probably spring.
This is the second wave.
Yeah, it's the second wave. It's the second month of the second wave, right?
Second month of the second wave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lockdown 500. Depends on how you count it, because they extend the lockdowns.
Exactly, yeah. So I guess it goes by wave.
Yeah. Goes by waves and days.
Yeah, the moment bars open again, that's the end of the second lockdown. And according to my sources, it's not going to end until spring.
Ooh. That reminds me of that musical of Producers. Have you ever seen it?
No.
They just have a musical number in there. Really great. Like springtime for Hitler and Germany.
For Hitler and Germany?
Yeah.
Oh.
The plot, they basically try to make the worst musical ever made. So they make a musical about Hitler, but then it is a great success. So that's kind of a spoiler of the movie. Spoiler alert. Sorry, people.
That sounds funny to me.
It's excellent. Oh, you should watch it. Gene Wilder is in the original. The actor from the original Willy Wonka. It's amazing.
You know, I'm not good with names. I have no idea who you're talking about until I see them personally. So,
well, trust me, you'll love Gene Wilder.
Okay, I'll write it down.
He's a real mensch. Gem.
Gem.
Don't you know?
Here's the gem.
But this second lockdown, second wave. Look at me out now. It's I don't know how I feel about it. I knew it was gonna come.
You saw it coming.
Yeah, you just had to look at the graphs.
Yeah.
Like they predicted how the waves would go if you don't have like a hard lockdown, right?
Yeah. Well, Greece had a hard lockdown, and now a second hard lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, like they're not allowed to leave their homes from 9 at night until 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm. That really sucks.
Yeah. So I don't know if that works, but also they opened the borders on vacation.
Well, the lockdown doesn't work on its own. It has to be in like concert with a bunch of other like massive testing. You have to have the infrastructure to get rapid testing results. You have to also implement a protocol for tracking for contact tracing.
Yeah, which is really hard to do.
Which is very hard to do. And that's why you sort of see with countries that are relatively small and isolated, like New Zealand, Thailand, they've been able to, their hard lockdown measures have been successful, but then, the exception to the like rule seems to be China. But that's mostly, I think, due to their being an authoritarian regime. So.
Yeah. And I'm sure we would have complaints of the possibility of like Canada becoming an authoritarian regime if we implemented really harsh lockdown measurements. I don't think people would have accepted here. Yeah.
That's what they said in the beginning, that people wouldn't have accepted here. So that's why we're dealing with the second wave here now. But what ends up happening for us too is that people can't just get back to normal. So we then have to, deal with all this pandemic fatigue, as they call it. This forever.
I don't think people have been respecting the really loose rules that we've been having for the past 2 months either. I mean, I don't want to be a snitch, but I know a lot of people have been gathering in groups, and I may or may not be one of them, but not necessarily big groups. But I've been seeing people, like I've been in people's apartments throughout this whole thing. Should I say this on the podcast, or is it's very irresponsible? Maybe we should cut it out.
I mean, it's too late. It's staying in. You're just baiting yourself.
I've been two people. RCMP. I've been to two people.
You've been two people.
I've been in two people.
This whole lockdown, in fact, any of my email have been hacked. So someone else named Tatianna has been going around. I actually have 2 cell phones. So any of this tracing you might do with the GPS on my phone won't work because that's someone else.
Exactly. They stole my phone and they stole my credit card, which I just found today anyway.
Yeah. So. Beautiful. Alibi saved. That's it.
Yeah. Saved. I can spend more money. But going back to me snitching on myself and other people. They have not been respecting the gatherings. And with the new announcement of the premier of Quebec, Monsieur Legault, for our listeners who don't reside in Canada, he announced that he's going to let people gather for Christmas. He's going to let people have other people, up to 10 people in one household for the day of Christmas, because it's a very popular and respected holiday, and it's going to bring people together. But a few people have expressed some concern on that because they don't necessarily celebrate Christmas, or they might want to celebrate some other holidays on other dates. So that has spiked up a little debate here in the area. What do you think?
It's kind of pretty irresponsible. Like, even putting aside the favoritism for the Christian holidays, because we should maybe lay out what the proposal is. So it was expressed as a social contract, which is a fancy term for meaning everyone should do this, but there's no consequences for not doing it. Other than the fines that they already have in place, that I don't really know the numbers on how many tickets have been given out to people, but the whole idea is that about a week or 5 days before the holiday, everyone there's gonna be a hard lockdown, and then there's a 4-day period where people can gather in groups of 10, but you basically can grab in like something like 4 different groups of 10. So in total, you can actually like meet up to like 39
40
people.
people.
40
yeah,
people.
39 people. And I'm sure those groups of 10 are not going to be strictly 10, you know? I feel like most families have more members. So it's not like if a 12-person family is going to be like, okay, well, we need to choose 2 people that are not going to be included in this year's festivities. That's like insane.
It's bizarre, but then also there are going to be many people who are going to be overly zealous trying to implement and follow these rules, thinking that like they can't go to any gatherings at all, or they really like, you know, are only going to pick up with like one group of 10.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be in contact with people who are going to break the rules, you know, because it really does depend on like how likely you are going to be like honest too. This is like a different story, but you heard in Australia, there were contact tracing on how a outbreak happened in a pizza parlor beside a hotel. And they interviewed all the people in the hotel that it was like an outbreak, and none of them said that there was a problem with like the pizza. Like they haven't been going over there, the pizza parlor. So they were just like baffled for like a month, wondering like, did the COVID get on a pizza box? Like what had happened? And then it turned out that one of the employees of the hotel just lied and didn't admit to actually working at the pizza parlor.
Yeah, because you don't want to close the business down.
Yeah, or whatever their motivation like was.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it just kind of goes to show how a little white lie can go a long way.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, I was watching a talk, like it was a commentary from Slavoj Zizek on the pandemic, and he was stressing the fact that we're experiencing an ethical crisis. It's not necessarily a health crisis, because our health crisis could have been prevented if our ethical priorities were like similar, which is stay home, protect your loved ones, don't neglect the rules and the measurements that are taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that also extends to the point where if you do get the virus, how honest are you going to be about how responsible you've been?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's like, a big ethical question.
You know, it's been how long did it take for, like, how many PSAs around STDs has there been around? Like, you get an STD and you call your partners and let them know you contracted the disease and they need to get tested themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I feel it was like a long time to actually get like people to comply by those ethical standards.
Yes.
And now people still don't like follow it universally.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not that surprising, you know, that but I agree that there's a good way of framing it too, because it is more of a question about like what your ethical standards are. However, it's like really a bit of an oversimplification, because it's like the ethics, it also shows that ethics is relative.
Yeah. I mean, we should have known that by now, to 2020.
I mean, a lot of people don't. Yeah.
Are those the people that post Instagram reels? I wonder.
Yeah, they probably have like a naive view of ethics for sure, or a lot of them, I would imagine. You know, they just think judgment. Like, if I just create reels selling my sexuality and I benefit from it, no harm done. If I can get like, if I can have 100 million followers, I can influence them. I don't have any more ethical obligations other than creating entertaining content.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big debate. I don't have the answer to it. It's similar to, you know, I am a business and I'm open during a pandemic and I throw parties during a pandemic in the States, even though I know what the big deal is. Or I'm a business, and I throw parties during a lockdown. Like I throw secret parties in my bar during lockdown, which I'm not gonna name, but I've
I
seen
like
that
how
happening
you're
too.
like personifying of the business. I'm a
Yeah,
business.
I'm a business.
I'm gonna stay
I'm a
open during the
business.
lockdown. Have
I'm
people
gonna stay
come in the
open.
bar, drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Drinks. Any bitches?
uh, the strip club next door might, but I heard it's locked down. So
Oh,
why
you
don't you
think
come
so?
in and have a cocktail?
A cocktail.
You like that innuendo?
I like that. I mean, it's the first time I hear it for sure as a bartender.
You're a bartender?
Yes, guys, I'm a bartender.
I know that. Shoot.
I make drinks for the past 4 years for a living.
And you're also pink cocks.
Yeah, I make cocks and I'm a cocktailer.
You're a cocktailer and cock drawer. Cock painter.
Exactly. I'm gonna use the term coined by one of my, I would say teachers in the life of the bartender. Their name is, I'll name them. I'm not gonna say their last name, Kevin. And he told me
I know
once,
Kevin.
You don't know Kevin.
I know Kevin.
And I was like, do you consider yourself a mixologist? And he was like, no, I'm a cockologist.
Proctologist.
I was like, this is hilarious, and I'm gonna keep saying this for the rest of my life.
So you've studied coctology for 4 years. You have a bachelor's, and now you're on your way to get a master's. Soon you're going to be a doctor in coctology.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's my plan. That's my career plan, everybody.
Life goals.
Life goals is to be a doctor. Dr. Cock.
It's better than a podcaster.
Exactly. What am I doing at this time?
This is all just for fun.
This is fun games, everybody.
Yeah.
Going back to businesses.
Yeah, you're a business and you don't care about the rules.
Yeah, I don't care about the rules.
Ethics
but
don't matter.
There's one rule in Quebec that I wish most businesses did not care about, and that's the language rule.
Oh, yeah. That was one thing that I found strange around this like lockdown. So like, people that don't know the Canada is a pretty strange relationship with Quebec, because Quebec is a majority francophone, like French-speaking country with their own history and traditions, and compared to like the rest of Canada, there's enough. Like the rest of Canada, like mostly are English speaking. So there have been multiple referendums and movements for Quebecers to like vote to separate from Canada.
But why is that? Yeah, we should explain for our larger audience why is that? It's mainly like the French language and culture.
I think we should maybe do like the next episode to get a little more solid details on this, but okay. I think because it's a very complicated. There's a very complicated history. Like in the 60s, there was a few crises where the army had to be called in. The separatist movements kidnapped a politician and then executed him. So there's been and this is all in the past century. So there are many people who are still alive and believe that the French culture in Canada is on the decline, and the government is obliged to create policies to ensure that not only the French culture is preserved but thrives. So in that vein, one of the many things that they have done is to create a form of like language policing, where essentially there is a wing in the government that's tasked to go to different businesses and find them if they are not providing like the signage and whatnot in French. And anyways, so this it's very odd because in this vein of preserving culture, they present it as a form of a secularism. So, you know, in the past few years, there's been a bill that has like gone through Parliament where the government is essentially making it illegal for certain religious symbols to be worn if you are a public servant. And it's phrased in such a way that something like a small cross that you can put under your shirt is allowed, but wearing a hijab or like a turban would not be acceptable.
Yeah.
So there's a favoritism that is occurring that seems seemingly like just goes in the face of the idea that we want to be a secular society.
Yeah, that's kind of suspicious.
It's suspicious, but it's just, you know, it's also it's difficult if you do if you're in a country that's like trying to starve religious communities. And anyways, so like, and there's a whole bunch of other problems that kind of like occur out of these like two language systems we have in Canada. Like if you look at the Supreme Court and major high offices and the government, federal government, most of them are from Quebec because we're a bilingual country. So in Quebec, there is a much stronger push for there to be like English speakers in a country where, you know, in a culture that is French speaking, they are like pushing their citizens to learn English because they know that in North America, that is the dominant language and around the world. So since the whole country ends up favoring bilingual speakers must ascend to the highest office. You can't be a monolinguist.
No, you have to have because all the internal communications, written or oral, have to be performed in the French language as far as Quebec goes. And Quebec, there's there's an interesting document that's available online, and it's basically it's the Charter of the French language and its opponents, and it has about 200 articles where they're basically laws, and they state where and how the French language is supposed to be not only legal but mandatory. And it's very interesting for the service industry. It states clearly that all the workers have to know French, and all Quebec residents have the right to be served in French, which I don't think that's a crazy idea when considering Montreal and Quebec in general. It's like a mostly francophone. It's the only francophone province in Canada. And of course, if you were born and raised here and you speak French and that's your main first language, you want to go to a bar and be able to be served in French. Right?
I mean, it's not a crazy idea.
I don't think that's crazy. I think the way they're dealing with it is crazy.
Like, I guess a lot of what I find first, I kind of get out there what I think is like good about it. Like, I do think that the government is obliged to ensure that the cultural identity of a country or of a culture has the opportunity to take in measures to ensure that it can not just survive but thrive. But then that it becomes sticky when you are also a multicultural society as well. And to the extent that like you're able to provide the autonomy for other cultures to exist within the dominant one, is this tension is very, very difficult to navigate. You know, so I have sympathy to, you know, some extent to that, like there probably isn't ever going to be a policy that you can come up with that's not going to like impede on some people's freedoms. You know, this isn't America. We don't think free speech is an absolute. You know, I at least, and I definitely don't think that. So, but what is odd to me is that this Quebec, you know, is a province, but then there is a Quebec nationalism that wants to push the French speaker, like French culture to all of Quebec in its totality. And it does seem at some point, just because not because like, you know, the French culture shouldn't like thrive or grow or anything like that, but because of the world we live in is multinational and global, is that you're going to have other cultures come in, people, businesses want to, and like not only is it like in the interest of the country, but then you know, for the country, but also for their economy. So it's, unless you want to basically completely isolate yourself and turn into like a North Korea, there's going to be some long-term consequences to this like global interconnection that we have. So, and anyways, so like what you end up kind of seeing now with the like since the lockdown measures have been put in place, is that for many of the nationalist parties in Quebec, is that they've been expressing a lot of fear that the government, Quebec government, like isn't doing enough to, you know, ensure that that all the businesses are complying by these bills that Tatiana mentioned. So they've been going around to businesses and ticketing them.
They've been doing the research, the
in
very
a pandemic.
cheesy research.
Your cheesy research?
Yeah, it's a cheesy research. Like they've been like going to places, and I've seen articles saying like, these are the 10 businesses that we kind of like spied on and our reporters went, and they were not able to be served in French. And then like they name those businesses so like francophones can boycott them and be like, I'm not going there because they can't serve me in French. And it's like, dude, you just want a fucking sandwich. Most of the sandwiches have anglicized names anyway. Like, what's your fucking problem?
Yeah. And then also, like, what is that? Sometimes the undercover reporters will talk to people who only speak English, who work at this business. And they'll say, like, I don't really ever serve anyone in French, and I can't really do it much either. I actually, like, lied. And it's like a form of doxing in a way. And it's like, again, out of this urge to have all of Quebec comply to these language laws. And they've specifically pointed out Montreal as being the one city in the whole province that isn't able to ensure these high standards are being met.
Yeah. I'm as a mostly like when I'm in Canada, I'm mainly like prominently like Anglophone, and all of my service industry jobs, I was prominently Anglophone, but I was asked to perform my services in French, and I learned the way to do it in a sense where it shows that I try and I understand most of it and I can respond efficiently. But if the conversation goes elsewhere, I might as well switch to English. And I get it. I respect it. Like, yes, it's Quebec. French is the main language. If somebody comes to my bar and asks something in French, I should be able to respond to them in French. That's perfect. I get it. Like if you go to Athens and you live there and you work there, you make a living in Athens, and you know, you can't go on your life without speaking a word of Greek. It's weird. You know, if you go to France, if you go to Paris, like you're going to eventually be asked to learn the local language. I get it. In the middle of a pandemic where bars and service industry, bars, restaurant, coffee places are literally dying because they don't have the financial, they do have financial support, but even with that, they can make it happen. They can make it work, and they're closing down one by one. Even long-term historic business, they're dying because of COVID, and you're going on top of them to fuck them with the fines because they have English words in their menus or because they have an English words on their business name. That's irresponsible, and out of like, I think it's not the great timing for it, unless you're trying to, you know, serve other interests that you have, like potential, I don't know, propaganda for, you know, Quebec nationalism in the midst of a pandemic where it's easier to manipulate people's brains. I don't know.
I mean, that's like, you know, big brain conspiracy theory there. I
look on my head, it's huge.
With those headphones on, it's like twice as big.
Like, my big conspiracy brain.
Big brain bang.
But I don't think it's out of reach. Like, I think you need to be a little bit suspicious with the measurements like this. Like, why now, dude? Like, who are you trying to please?
Yeah, I mean, I want to agree so badly, but, you know, to sort of be a little bit more, you know, incremental. The thing you have to kind of like ask yourself in the end is simply like, okay, is the government able to do more than one thing at the same time? Of course it is. You know, so if it's able to like address the needs for the pandemic while also trying to address this political pressure to ensure that the like language laws in Montreal are, you know, being upheld, fine, they can do more than one thing at the same time. But I would then wonder, like, is there evidence that they were preparing for a second wave? Like, was the provincial government actually preparing for a second wave to be in place, or were they neglecting to actually follow through on a lot of their promises? And as far as I could tell, that many of the promises they made to like put in like new filtration systems inside of schools, to be able to like, you know, put in policies that would ensure that the long-term care homes were going to apply adequate practices to take care of their seniors, or were they focusing on this like language loss bullshit? And of course I'm biased and think it's that they were doing the latter.
But it obviously, like, the receipts show that they were, because when they posted their statement about budgeting $5 million in opening new language police offices and like hiring new language police inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
It's $5 million in the middle of a pandemic when all of your bars are dying. What is Montreal really? What is Montreal? Like, Montreal is tourism during the summer with all the fucking festivals, and Montreal is porn industry, mainly Anglophone. Thank you very much. And also, what is it? It's fucking students, McGill and Concordia. Yeah. And like, it's international students. Most of them are not even Francophone. And they give you 25 grand a year to study in your Anglophone universities. And they also give you like 25 hours of their week to work in your restaurant industry so they can, you know, have a decent living as students here. And then on top of that, you're like, oh, you don't speak French. Oh, you're here in the middle of the pandemic and our hospitals are overloaded and our businesses are closing and people are out of work, so we have to give them money to support themselves while they're staying at home. Oh, I might as well give $5 million to maybe, I don't know, fucking big in Japan is a different name. It's like gross in Japan. I don't know. What's the fucking... I'm sorry, I swear too much. I get too frustrated.
You're angry. It's very frustrating. Because like
it's $5 million again. $5 million. That's crazy.
Yeah, the money could have been spent on something else. But again, it goes to show like on how deep this, Quebec nationalism runs, because it's not just like it's not like in Canada there are like four like main parties, and then in Quebec there are like a bunch of other Quebec nationalist parties that will not enter onto the national stage. That put a lot of pressure onto the provincial government to be more francophone. So that's what it's the dynamic you start seeing being played out, is that like, when there is a pandemic going on for months, the opposition to like the leader like don't have anything to do. So when they finally do, like, when in the summer, as the cases started to kind of go down a bit more, they have an opportunity to get some news, get themselves in the news, and what are they going to bring to the floor is their bread and butter, and say that, hey, the French culture is on decline. We have XYZ studies here that shows that Montreal is the biggest perpetrator. We demand there to something to be done, and they start accusing like another like moderate nationalist party for not being more extremely nationalist. And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to do something. Here's $5 million. And it's really like, it's too bad. It's too bad. Because, you all look like you got egg on your face to me.
That's so funny. But it's Quebec eggs.
Quebec eggs.
Local.
They got a pretty big poultry industry here, don't they?
If they want to, if Quebec wants to preserve its culture, they should make it more friendly and not shove it to people's faces when they're struggling to make to faire du bacon, make their bread,
Je
fais du bacon.
Je bacon.
It's like, I have money. J'ai du bacon.
Moula moula.
It's I don't know what it means.
Anyways,
I don't know. I've met a lot of I've seen Quebec. When I lived in Hochelaga, Quebec was all around. It was like middle class Quebecois people, and they were like adorable. Like they were so like even like they didn't speak English, and they knew I didn't speak French, but they were also like so welcoming. They were there. They were like, you had this sense of community. And yes, we were not best buds because we had like a language barrier, of course, but they were not. I've seen the side of like, yeah, you're it's fine. You're trying, it's good, but not like I'll fine you if you don't. Have you ever had an instance where you were verbally attacked by a francophone in public because you didn't speak French?
Yeah, more often than I'd like to admit.
Do you want to talk about your story? I have one too. No?
Like it's Quebec like nationalism of any sort is always aggressive, and they're engaged in a lot of like conspiracy minded thinking, and they have very strong beliefs. So, and it's hard to like for me to like really pass too much judgment on them, because I just think I'm inclined to sort of be pretty sympathetic and sort of just consider like why would they believe what they believe, and I want to get myself out of that kind of situation. I'm not going. I really don't like to engage in into this kind of like big confrontation, sort of like question like, why do I have to speak French to you right now? Why is it now that like you want to harass me that I'm unwelcome? Because for the most part, like there's not that many people who will engage in this behavior. However, there are more people who are starting to engage in this behavior, and there's like unfortunately a lot more people who are then sympathetic to this the essence of that frustration. And that's where things start to get kind of dangerous, where this like radicalism can start to come to the forefront, and and that's in part like why, you know, a more progressive perspective is so critical of the secular bill that went through like the parliament, because it's not only like external like movements who are pushing these radical ideas, but when it's elected officials who are advocating for these radical ideas and sitting on the floor giving a speech that provides validity to them. It's hard to like also like judge in those contexts, like how worried should I be, you know, and that's like because in some sense the language police stuff is pretty mild. It's kind of mild, you know. It's like someone shows up there and gives you a fine, and then the media is going to publish some stuff. People are going to shame you, wag your finger. A few businesses will like maybe go under as a consequence, or they'll start to struggle a bit more, which is unfortunate. However, let's move a little over, because what about this like nationalism and patriotism for your country, right? When that starts to kind of get when patriotism becomes legitimate and the police get involved in Greece, I think that also
you think, you don't know for
is
sure,
starting to happen.
I mean, I get in times of in these weird times, in these unprecedented times, we have to stick together and lift each other up. I guess when you're connected to one thing, and that one thing is like you're from Quebec and you're from Quebec, so we're together from Quebec. Let's fight for Quebec because there's nothing else to fight for at this point. I get it. It's not unreal in my head.
And then if like all the things that they are fighting for is just like give $5 billion to get more, you know, language police investigators. No. But if they were saying like, hey, we need to have like more thugs in the street, that will be a lot better. That's like a bit of, but that's a big jump.
Yeah, that's what they're doing in Greece, though. They're having more thugs on the street. And by thugs, I mean police staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically right now you're aware of the extreme lockdown that they're going through. It's the second lockdown. I think I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast.
Well, why don't you give a recap, introduce that for us?
All right. So for
the uninitiated.
It was this, yeah, the thing was in the first lockdown, in the first wave of the pandemic in March, the measurements for the lockdown in all of Greek grounds was basically you're not allowed to leave your house from more than 2 blocks away from your address unless you're going at any time. And the only way for you to exit your house was either to go to work if you were an essential worker, to go exercise or walk your dog, or go provide care to someone that is in need. For example, if you have like a sick relative that has no one to be taken care of by, you could go and like take care of them. But every time you were exiting, you have to text a government number where you say, I'm going out for exercise, and you have the approval text as proof that you've been approved to exit. So it's pretty bizarre. That was the first wave. Second wave started 2 weeks ago, and it came with the same measurements of the whole texting process. But on top of that, there's a curfew from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. And if you're caught outside of your house at 9, you get a fine. And that fine, I'm pretty sure it can go up to 500 euros, which is a lot of money for a Greek person, because you're out of work. Most of people are out of work right now. and the only like government fund that they receive, like benefits, it was like something like 500 to 800 euros, which is nothing. Literally, it's like, okay, thank you, I can buy bread for a month. So that's what's been going on. Fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like here's your money so we can take it back. At the same time, there's like a lot of policing in the streets, and people have been getting attacked by the cops on a regular basis, either because they have not been necessarily complying with the rules. Like I read this testimony of a girl who was a street musician, and she went outside to play music, and maybe passerbys would just like throw her some money. And that was not in any of the reasons that you're allowed to exit your house, so they had to like fucking beat her up for some reason. Or on the 17th of November, it's kind of like a Remembrance Day for the national coup we had back in the day, where
that's a different story.
I don't know.
That's the prequel.
Maybe we can play the Varoufakis video, because he explains it better than I would in English. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
You can play it and share your screen. Yeah.
Okay, let's start that. Pull that open.
And then we can comment on that, because it's, for me, it's so cheesy, but it explains the situation.
Europeans are
facing a global pandemic. I love his accent. I live for Varoufakis' accent.
It's like, what region of Greece is that accent?
Well, it's an English-Greek accent. There's no region behind that. It's like how most Greeks sound in English.
Okay.
Like even I get like, sometimes I'll just like spit a Greek line in my accent. I'm sure you figured.
So
this is it. Yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. I'll turn it down a little. It's a little loud.
Europeans are facing two threats: the pandemic and the threat to our democracy. Under the cover of fighting the pandemic, this government here in Greece today has dealt a massive blow against democracy. Our party, Mera25, very responsibly asked our members not to demonstrate today, a day, 17th of November, which is a traditional day of protest by youth, by workers, by victims of oppression and exploitation. We asked them not to come in order to participate in the efforts to fight against the pandemic. 7 members of parliament represented them, and the government issued an order, you can see the police behind us, to prevent us violating the Greek constitution from marching, from moving, from even going back to parliament. This is the first step towards the urbanization of Greece. Europeans, beware. The illiberal democracies that started in Poland and Hungary, outside the European Union in Turkey, are now spreading. Greece is such an illiberal pseudo-democracy as of today. We need to unite against the pandemic and against the threats to our democracies. Carpe diem.
Pay it forward.
Yeah, outside for the political propaganda that Varoufakis is trying to promote through this video against the current Greek government, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, because I hate the current Greek government. Basically, the 17th of November, it's a Remembrance Day because there was an uprising against the military people that took over Greece, and they had really it was kind of like an oppressive far-right military takeover of Greece, where you had curfew, you couldn't gather in groups, they were oppressing people, they were, what's the word when you have somebody and they were torturing, like political activists and all that stuff. And a bunch of students gathered in like a the Polytechnic, which is like a huge like university in Greece, and they were doing demonstrations, and then that dictatorship wanted to break the demonstration, so they invaded the space with a tank and they killed a bunch of people. Everybody was running. There was like police brutality all day. I'm kind of like explaining it down. It's a huge event, and like everybody who's like anti-oppression in Greece celebrates that day in memory of those people that stood against the military coup. So this year on the 17th, for 4 days, all demonstrations were publicly claimed illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many police, so many like military police all around Athens that day. And people did gather, but they gathered in like strict, like 2 meters, wearing mask kind of situation to be kind of respectful of the measurements and COVID, because it is in the middle of a lockdown. And then of course cops started throwing the fumes and make
like throwing smoke grenades and
and
pepper
like
spraying
creating
people.
and creating all
Were people arrested as well?
Yeah, people were beat. Like
And
we
beaten?
we can show images too, as that helps, but it will take some time for me to look them up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. People can look that up.
Well,
but it does look like a political propaganda in the midst of a pandemic to use the power of the state against citizens in Greece right now, and especially police force. It's always been insane, but with the new government it's extra insane.
Well, yeah, like this is where it's difficult, right? Where you're trying to compare one country's response to the pandemic and to the lockdown to another. Like China had extreme lockdown measures and were basically able to prevent the spread of the virus. But most European countries, pretty much all of them, I'm sure, have not been able to prevent the spread of the virus at some point. So it's just like not if, but like when the incline of cases will become so extreme that they'll have to put in some like lockdown measures. So, for us, like, and for Greece, like they're in a second wave, but then these extreme measures that were, put in place in China, like they aren't necessarily like applicable to Greece. And even though like maybe they could be, but like they really would only make sense if you did that once. It looks a lot worse when you have extreme measures put in place initially, but then aren't successful.
Yeah.
Because mostly the reason why the initial lockdown measures aren't successful is that then there aren't other policies and enforcement mechanisms put in place that would be able to further prevent the spread, like through contact tracing, allowing people to isolate, high frequency of tests. Like if you don't have those measures in place, it's very unlikely that you will prevent the second wave. So in the case with Greece, it's like the second wave comes, and then now you have the same extreme lockdown measures amplified. It's like the policies are the same, but now they're more extreme. And I think it's a bad look, essentially, even if you could like argue that like this is for the having this large police presence is in some way like necessary at this time.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just kind of ironic because there's definitely some exception to the rules, and that exception is obviously the filming and producing of television shows. they have that, like, they're like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can still go and record your like stupid show every day. Like, people are in the studio recording, and they're getting like tested at the door and bullshit like this. Or that military is it's mandatory for Greek men in Greece. Like
is
the
it mandatory
attendance
conscription for the military?
Yeah, it's a mandatory attendance of 9 months to 12 months for every Greek male, assigned male. So they're still going.
To your cousin Panos join the military?
Yeah. Well, he's not going yet, but he has to.
Oh, so it's not even, it's like, so what's the age range?
It's basically like you can be excused for various reasons, especially if you're a student. And right now, my cousin is a student. But my other cousin's not a student. He's in the military, and he goes in and gets COVID because he's in a fucking military station with a bunch of dudes that were out partying all summer or whatever, But that's still legal. Like they're still allowing gatherings of military men, which is insane. It's insane that's another discussion why it's mandatory to this day, but.
So it's like, you have the military to impose strict measures on other people without actually having a mechanism to ensure the military are complying by those same restrictions.
Yeah,
it's stupid, extremely hypocritical.
Because this new government is extremely military friendly. They love those boys. They're like, you're Greek gods. You're gonna save our country in case Turkey tries to conquer us. You sexy rifles. You're strong Greek boys, hairy nipples and hairy balls.
Oh my god, big little dicks, all sizes.
I attest to that. I've seen a lot of hairy Greek balls.
They should have like the Greek Turkish version of MMA fighting, just like oily wrestling.
Sexy. That's sexy.
Right.
That's sexy. I feel like
the oiliest man wins.
That's so queer. That's so homoerotic. I feel like it would be like, like the Golden Girls for gay people.
Sure, but it's also, I think, like a lot of homophobic Greek and Turkish men would be tricked into doing it. It's like, like they're into like hugs and kissing each other on the lips to say hello. And they're like, that's not gay. But then they're like,
but oil fights.
But oiling fighting, definitely not gay. Very manly.
I mean, I was saying more like a production, if you saw that in the big screen, it's like oily Greek and Turkish men fighting. That's sexy.
It's like a North American sensibility. We'd look at them and like, wow, that's very homoerotic. But then to like all, it's like Christian Scientists going to see like classic Greek sculptures in the Parthenon. And they're just like, oh my God, they're all gay.
There's so many dicks around.
All these little dicks everywhere.
Yeah.
Why are they all naked like that? What the hell?
Because they love their dicks.
I cannot let any of my children see these naked marble statues. God.
Yeah. I'd rather they see them online and 10 years from now on Pornhub.
My kids, I think I'm gonna grow them up Amish. I'm not a Christian Scientist anymore. I'm gonna be an extreme German Protestant. The Amish. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny though, like, because tying back to what we were talking about, the patriotism and nationalism in Quebec, like, if Greece is a democracy, there are enough people that believe that this party that is, as you say, like friendly to the military should be in power. Is it like out of a sense of like patriotism, or this like you think that they are attracted to reverting back to, like, this like, a military dictatorship?
I mean, it's the same. My thoughts on it is the same as they were on people who voted for Golden Dawn and they put them into parliament. It's they were when you have such a corrupted state, the reasons for you to vote a party is not necessarily because you agree to their ideology, but for some reason there's something for you to benefit from if they are elected. And that's mainly financial flourishment, or some position in the public domain, and that's like has been a constant problem in the electoral process in Greece, like how people make their choices on the parties that they vote for. So I guess with the new party, it comes like the guy that like his name is Mitsotakis, and he's like his family has been historically like right wing, heading that party for years. So it's like a strong family that has a lot of connections and a lot of people that want to like follow them because there's certain benefits if they are elected. That makes sense. If I was a dumb fuck, I would vote for them too.
If you knew them and you could get like into a position in the cabinet, you're like, I'll vote for them.
Yeah, if I didn't care about the middle lower class and I was like middle higher class, and if I knew that if I voted for them, my daughters and my cousins and my nephews would be I don't know, qualified to have a job in a certain domain, I would do it. I don't see I see the problematic of that process, of that thought
but if
process.
you were like in that network, you can also see why you would comply to the norms that ensure that the corrupt status quo can be sustained.
I can only see why, because I have deconstructed the thought process that goes through those people's head to understand why they do it, so I can deny it, But I'm not saying I would, as myself, when I vote for someone, I not necessarily think like this, because I have a certain sensitivity towards other groups, including my group, the group I belong to, that doesn't agree with their rhetoric. But that's all to explain why, yes, what you're saying, like if it's a democracy, why that person's in power is because a lot of people voted for him. So I think it's a problem within the Greek community in Greece that needs to be resolved. It's the same with like the American elections. It's the same with like, provincial elections here in Quebec. Why Legault is in power, because a lot of people voted for him. Makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of people end up voting for shitty leaders, and and that's kind of the beautiful fragility of a democracy, is that you leave it up to the people, and if people can easily be convinced by misinformation and disinformation, I start forming a beliefs, and there's a coherent ideology that and is in accordance with a political party. It doesn't matter what the party's agenda is and the actual policies that they put in place. As long as they maintain the political messaging, you will still feel that that's my team.
Yeah.
Like they could lie as much as they like possibly can, but you'll still forgive them if you think that they're trying to win for you.
Which is so bizarre to me to think.
That's sports, baby. Have you never? I guess you're not into sports. You're into drawing dicks.
That is a sport in itself.
Yeah, but not a lot of people are participating in dick drawing.
I feel like everybody's participating in dick drawings. What did you draw when you were in high school? Dicks.
Yeah, but you're delusional right now, so I don't really.
I'm delusional?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
like sports are dependent on multiple teams and organizations competing one another, but also coordinating on this massive network to be able to like produce not only players, but then to ensure that these players become icons for the team, that they can be marketed and become and create content. So the whole feedback mechanism is really a complex. Kids like going and drawing dicks and stuff, like you can go to Pompeii and see that the graffiti was also included dick drawing in there too,
So it is an ancient art, the one
yeah, it's an ancient art. But just like food, but also people are denied food all the time too.
True. Nutrition is important.
So my point is that like there's something higher order good, like some higher order game going on that then convinces many people to neglect bare necessities like food and dick drawing. If we
we might as go as far as there for
might
sure.
as well include dick drawing
and anything that serves your plate.
Serves my plate.
Isn't that a phrase? Like, doesn't matter. But I thought I think I literally translated a Greek phrase in English and it doesn't make sense. But what you're saying about like idolizing people and like putting them so they can become commodities.
Yeah.
So they can have a following after and promote certain ideas. I mean, that's politics in its essence.
But it's also like something like really human, right? Like I kind of feel like since there's like ever been lords, like lords are basically end up having a divine power to then organize a mass group of people to get them to cooperate to serve some greater end. But the question often is like, how does the surplus of that labor become distributed?
Yeah.
And humans are very bad at distributing the surplus. And then you have some people who want to give like a kind of evolutionary explanation that basically say like, hey, like this distribution is this poor distribution, this unequal distribution is natural.
Yeah.
And it's inescapable. Basically all we can really do is create greater extremes of income inequality, but providing more supply, then eventually it lifts all boats.
Yeah.
But most of those, but that will not work without an external force that is able to ensure that the people abide by the law.
Yeah.
And you see like in our modern day like situation, like Slezak also talks about, where basically the idea of there being a mass international coordination to deal with the climate crisis is the only way we can deal. We will survive. And
you
that
said like the voice Zizek?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's talking about this.
Yeah, you said Slezak, and I got what you meant.
Sorry.
But I don't.
Zizek.
Zizek, yeah, and so on and so on.
And so on and so on. But yeah, like it's and it's not like this is a new idea in any way. Like international pressure on other countries to not commit like hate crimes and whatnot, to have the UN, international courts, all these things are like mechanisms that already exist. However, you need to actually ensure that the players have a stake in those mechanisms being upheld. And it's very easy to create these courts and give them little power. And that's basically what you kind of see happening. So as much as I agree a lot of time, like yes, like democracy is important, but democracy has never been essential to human survival, and it's often like ends up just becoming as like politicians who end up saying like we need to fight for democracy. Those statements can seem just as vacuous and empty as it is any other political state slogan that you start pushing out.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely used as some kind of like lobbying method to get followers behind.
Who was it also? So I'm interested, the video we watched, what is this Greek party? They talk, is it DMI 12?
Meta 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Varoufakis party.
Is it popular?
No, everybody hates Varoufakis Greece after since he was with Tsipras in
2008. They still blame him.
Yeah, they still think he fucked up at the European Union when they were having those meetings about the
bailout.
So no one's just I don't think he has many followers. I feel like mostly maybe economy and politics aficionados are kind of romanticizing Varoufakis as this really radical thinker, a Greek thinker who knows what's up with the economy and the democracy in Greece. And he also thinks of himself this way. I told you before, about his website. It's like, me, I said this, I did this, look at this interview that I did.
Yeah.
But generally in Greece, the middle, the average Greek person has no appreciation for Varoufakis whatsoever.
Yeah,
but he's trying to, he's involved in a lot of movements.
I think he's popular internationally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, I see. The aficionados, not just the Greek political aficionados.
Yeah. No. Even Russell Brand is interviewing him every 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so hard to say what kind of because I feel during the Cold War, people would see someone like him as a useful idiot to basically find a political figure who has a big ego and is willing to advocate for policies that are more democratic.
Mm-hmm.
He is hated already, and you just provide funds for him. So then the ideas that he advocates for become more unpopular.
Mm-hmm.
So then it becomes easier to create instability within the region.
Yeah, that makes sense. I noticed something behind you. There's you have a map on your fridge that looks like a big green penis.
It's not a penis. It's Quebec. It's Montreal, actually.
That's so funny.
It's
a map of Montreal.
The map of Montreal to you get it it shows you what the garbage days are, and recycling days.
I never got that. I always have to Google it, a normal person.
Probably you moved.
I moved a lot of times.
Yeah,
I'm a nomad.
They were handing them out when the new garbage containers were delivered.
I never got them either.
Well, you probably could ask them to send you one, the Montreal government.
That's so hard to do. I have to speak French.
But you know French.
I know, but I don't know how to ask for a garbage bin in French.
Google it.
Google it.
You can figure it out. Don't let these things hold you back.
No, you're right. I should just perform my French.
Perform your French.
Perform a French.
Yeah.
That's cool. So
I'm thinking we should end the podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
That sounds good.
We've got an hour of debate and drawing lines. So I think one line we draw was, yes, French is good, but not in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah, that's a line that was drawn. We agreed with that one.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out the format that we're going to go on here, but yeah. Anyways, till next time in the next line, I'll see you again, Tatiana.
I'll see you. People will listen to us. Please subscribe if you want to keep getting notifications of our new episodes. This is the beginning, but it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, and see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side, motherfucker.
Bye.